Yes, hello, everyone. We're back again with a preview. Yes, George is back, so the first comment won't be, "Oh my God, where's George?" Yes, George is back. We're all back. This is the first time we're doing a live together this year. Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't done one since last year, but yeah, we're going into the biggest game of the season. Like probably no debate. First versus third. Um, they were on a run on a title charge. They drew to Palace recently, but yeah, it's a big game. Like it really does affect what happens. Obviously, Man City lost. Man City beat Tottenham yesterday, so they're closer. But before we get into everything, how you guys doing, George and Karen?
good, bro. Not too bad, man. It's like it's weird being back, but I missed everybody. Thank you, everybody, for reaching out, like on Twitter and everything. I really appreciate it. We're back, and we'll be back with like a lot more regular content. But man, I'm excited for this. I was saying in group chats, I feel like this game is going to have a huge atmosphere at the Emirates. Like just in terms of the last time that we've had something to fight for in this manner with a rival that we care as much about. I don't care what anybody says. Spurs aren't a rival in a sense that they're not a competitive rival. It's like it's an obligation rival. I've always talked about it on this channel. United is the one. That's the one where it's visceral for a lot of people. Our best success has always had them neck and neck, and I just think that with a team that needs to be humbled, they're really not good. I don't get this idea of why the media and their fans have so much chest with how they're playing. Like you just have to take a look at their last game, the spaces in midfield. Like I can't wait to get into it tactically because I don't understand why they got this chest. Fair play for results. You want to put your hand up and say, "Hold up, listen, they've got the results, but they haven't played well." And this lunacy that Manchester United have played well during this run is ridiculous, really. So I think from their perspective, obviously all they need is results, and you need to get into Europe. Like your first year as a coach is to stabilize and get into Europe. No problem. That's amazing. But then to really go the extra mile and start talking about how well you're playing, that's a little bit of a different story. So, no, I'm excited to really talk about it. And of course, we've got what in the last 24 hours, almost 3 signings confirmed. Like that is insane. And look, I got my defensive depth. I talked about on this channel before for a while. I said, listen, what is the point of this window? Defensive depth, and I think we got even more. I mean, I look at Trossard signing, and I'm sure we'll have a video. We'll talk about the signings a little bit more, so don't worry. Like we will have that to give you a little bit more tactical stuff about what they offer. But I just think that these 3 signings, if they were to come through, definitely the first 2, go a long way to completing the squad depth holes that remain in the squad. And I think beyond those 3, you could really only argue a youth DM is basically the only thing that misses in the squad after these signings. I mean, beyond that, there really is only marquee holes left in the team. And so I've been very impressed. We've spent almost £70 million this window. That's not cheap. That's not a lot. That is definitely a break from the pattern. The club does deserve credit. Edu does deserve credit. Particularly with the speed of the signings, and especially with some of the prospects that we've got, especially the latter 2, Ivan Fresneda and the other. I'm not even going to attempt to talk about Kiwi and what the pronunciation is there. But those 2 are excellent prospects in their respective leagues. Especially Ivan Fresneda, that's been absolutely courted by Real Madrid, and for me is the jewel of the window. I've said it both in group chats and I've said it online as well. I think Ivan Fresneda is somebody I'm very, very excited about as a prospect. And then you add the Kiwi in there, who definitely is somebody that I'm not as familiar with, but as I've got to know a little bit more about him. And, I've just looked at some of these comps and stuff. I'm really getting excited from the versatility that he shows. I'm getting excited for some of the little things in terms of, I know I was talking with other people. It looks like in the final third, he can create separation excellently, which is something I wasn't expecting, particularly with the ball and how he manipulates the ball. He's very, very good in that sense. He's also a very good channel defender. I think he's got excellent controlled aggression in wide spaces. And, I think the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about right now is he's definitely got that kind of he's quick across the ground, but he's got a slow turning radius. So when he does receive the ball, he's got the passing and the vision, but we're going to have to work a little bit on how he receives a little bit quicker to put a little bit more disguise on his passes. But definitely a prospect that's been doing really good now for about a year and a half in Serie A, who a lot of people are very excited about. Juventus, Napoli, Dortmund, tons of people were after him. And so, and it seemed like a natural progression. Like this isn't out of the blue. A lot of Serie A analysts are very much in favor of this type of signing and believe he could be a long-term starter. And so I'm just ecstatic. I don't know how much more you can get, by the way. I'll just really touch on Trossard there. For a guy that is 28, the contract length is perfect. I love the contract length. And then when you have a look about what he actually individually offers, he provides you 10 goals, and he's a left and right wing option, versatile option, somebody that can also play false nine as a second striker. Look, we all know he's not somebody that carries huge sprinting ability and long distances, but he's a tight space player and he's a low block destroyer. He immediately becomes one of the best finishers in the box in the squad that we have immediately. He has excellent ball striking, great decision making. He is efficiency. The ball usage of Trossard is excellent. That is one thing that I think this entire attacking lineup struggles with, really, which is efficiency of their final action. We've been really good. We've been scoring lots of goals, but it is the one point of improvement that I find that our attackers aren't efficient in all action, and Trossard is that. So for me, when I have a look at it, 26 million pounds for squad depth for 3 years, that's going to replace Reece Nelson long term in the squad. I don't know what's not to like. On 90K weekly wages, it's an excellent deal. It's not a deal that's going to prohibit anything big in the summer, and it supplements the title charge. So if you're a believer in terms of what this team can do going all the way, I mean, you get goals. I don't know what else you could get. It's Premier League experience. I've told people a lot. I love Mudryk. I've been one of the earlier ones to talk about Mudryk, but I also warned he is a much more of a project than people think. And I think that if your goal is a short-term title, Trossard does a lot more in the league for you than Mudryk would do. It would take a lot more time for him to adapt and get used to the system. And I think Trossard offers you far more versatility. He's far better long-term, and he's at a price that isn't inhibitive. When you look at squad depth options, you don't want them more than 26 million pounds, and boom, he's got it. So yeah, no, I'm ecstatic. And I just, after all that long spiel, I can't wait to get into United, because that's the point of the video. So anyways, yeah.
I mean, look, first of all, it's good to have you back, and it's good to see everyone and be back on the channel and talking football again. It's been a while, but the main thing is, I mean, just to briefly touch on it, we will be doing another video on Trossard and Kiwior and these and Fresneda. I'm basically going to spend my weekend watching Kiwior. That's my kind of what my weekend's looking like. But look, in terms of what we've done, we've signed 3 players in depth positions where we need depth. If you look at our group stage games in the Europa League, the 2 positions where we were really, lacking that depth was left wing and at left centre back. We were playing Gabriel or Martinelli in these positions, and now we don't have to. We can play this Kiwior guy, and we can play Trossard there. Obviously Reece is coming back as well. So there are options that will allow us to basically supplement the time charge with a charge in other competitions as well. Fresneda, I know George is very high on. I am very high on because of his ability to manipulate tight spaces, as well as his ability to act as an extra man in midfield to overload it centrally, as well as being that wide defender that's able to track one-on-one runners. So there's a lot to like there, and there's a lot to like in these transfers. And I mean, I made a comment on Twitter about how it was feeling like a Cedric Mari window for squad building, and it got completely destroyed because people thinking, these guys aren't Cedric Mari quality. And I was like, no, because this is a squad building window. That was the point I was trying to get across. This is to flesh out the squad, try and bring a bit of a spark to the second half of the season, not in terms of it being a Cedric quality signing, which people misconstrued and got Oblivion quoted, but it is what it is. The main thing for me is what we've done is we've decided that we're not content with just the Premier League, which I feel like is bold. I feel like it's definitely a move which, fair enough. If you feel like you want to win a double or even a treble with the Europa League and the FA Cup, I say dream big, dream and reach for the sky and go for it. You have this opportunity. We're in a position now where if we win on Saturday, it's not Saturday, Sunday, we're going into, I think, the 5th equal highest half point total of a Premier League season ever, aligned with Chelsea. I think that's incredible. So I think there's definitely ability to really push and really see what we can do with this squad. And as George was saying, the only thing left now is really, I'm seeing a lot of things about Camavinga or Kessie or someone like that. I don't know about this I mean, last summer it was a mystery winger. Now it's a mystery central midfielder. So I don't know whether we get that done or not. I don't even see the need to really get that done, especially with Kiwior being able to play that sort of third DM role as well as Zinchenko. Sometimes if you need absolute worst case scenario to fill in there as well, where he has done in the past. So there's definitely options, and there's definitely ways that we can navigate this sort of central midfield crisis, which everyone seems to be worried about with Thomas and with El Neni. So I don't really see the need for an extra one. I know George mentioned it just before about the whole Project DM. I mean, we've talked about Leslie Ugochukwu, talked about Eamon Kari, which obviously who recently signed. These are names that have come about, and that we are. I mean, personally, I think either of those two would be excellent signings. As well as, if you want to go a bit higher up the ladder, you can go for a Romeo Lavia or somewhere like this.
But I think the big thing for me, Curran, is the amount of work that we've done this window absolutely does eat into what you could realistically expect next summer. And I do think a marquee window is absolutely up in case. And look, we didn't just suddenly abandon the search for a winger. We're going to go for a big winger target in the summer when there's more available. We're going to be going for our target. And look, I mean, we've got rinsed on Twitter. BoP Twitter is the one propagating Declan Rice and shock horror. I'm sorry. I believe the word, it's a 4-letter word. It's called hold to a certain section of people that want to come for us in that sense. But look,
it's been 4 years on the Declan Rice train now.
Oh,
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
No, but for you guys, it's been almost 3 years. For me, it's been 2 years because I didn't really wasn't on Twitter like that. But for me, I think the main thing is I think there's a concentration of funds next summer. I mean, we said that last summer we didn't miss out on Champions League football, so we couldn't attain the targets for those concentration of funds. But I think a concentration of funds to go with maybe a 2 or even at best a 3-person window. I just think that's a major thing. I personally, I think Lavia goes back to City. I think they're not too sure, especially with the Gundogan leaving, maybe shifting either Grealish or Foden inside and picking up that extra central midfielder would be a shout. But I think the main thing for me is if we're looking at this short-termism and we're looking at this sort of Camavinga loan, I don't really see it. I don't really get it. I mean, we've talked on the channel about how even though he's a great central midfielder, I feel like he's better on the right. The angles work for him better. He receives better on the right, and his body opens up better on the right. And it doesn't really seem like he's a 6. I don't really count him as a 6. I think he's a dynamic 8 that can work in both boxes very well, but he's not a 6. So
well, on that note,
that's enough on transfers.
Yeah,
Let's get on to that next game.
We're here for United. 13 minutes in, all we talk about is transfers. But let's talk about United. They're on a 10-game domestic unbeaten streak. Obviously, they beat City in that time, but apart from that, it's a bunch of Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa. They lost to was their last loss, but 10-game run of no losses. Let
me ask you guys something, right? I don't know how many United games you've been watching. I've watched a couple because I wanted to see what they were up to. Have they impressed you at all?
No, I've watched pretty much all of them. I don't think they've been impressive, but results are results. And
results are results. But in terms of watching them going up against a title challenger, you have to be able to stand up and be counted and put in a performance that will,
Well, watching them in general play
to get a result. It's not
a team that don't dictate the game on and off the ball generally. And for a 90-minute period against us, I only really worry against teams like, for example, Newcastle do a very good job of dictating the game off the ball. Like, they don't have to have the ball to control the game, which is what sort of worried me in a sense where they could probably win. But with United, no, they don't control the ball. They shouldn't, but anyways, we'll talk about that next week. United don't do well to dictate play like we saw versus Palace after their first goal, really, which watching the game should have been a 0-0 draw. They didn't deserve that goal, I don't think. De Gea had a very great game, made some very big saves, and then just 2 pieces of quality really in that game. Balanced it out 1-1, but a lot of their games is that, some good finishes. When you have clinical, we've said it for a very long time, but when you have that amount of ball striking in a team, you can never really counter
Count it
out. When
out.
you have Rashford, Bruno, Garnacho off the bench, Eriksen, even Casemiro, Anthony.
Wish they weren't
part
out.
of the problem also is like you've talked a little bit earlier in that kind of speech, Chris, is about what teams can control the narrative. Essentially, there's some teams that do it on the ball, there's some teams that do it off the ball, and fundamentally, like the one thing that I can't knock United for, even though I think that they've been a lot poorer than people want to say, is that they do transition with speed, and they're probably one of the best transition teams in the league. That is what has helped them quite a bit. And I think what they have done well, at least, is Casemiro has done a very good job defensively for the team. But one thing that I kept saying for a lot of people is that they've run the Real Madrid round 2 version of putting him at 10 because he can't receive in the back. And they have Eriksen and Bruno dropping deep in a double pivot to receive.
Did you guys see the challenge? Did you see the challenge?
It was a red card challenge.
It was a red card challenge. But
it's above the knee.
High on the knee.
Like,
but
I don't
you're
understand.
just right. They are hiding him on and off the ball. One, just to not get the foul. But two, they don't trust him in possession. Even versus City, Bruno was dropping deep.
Exactly. And that's
you're
in a major...
Point, a really no pressure pass against Charlton that pings it over the top. Possession football. I don't understand.
But it's not just that, guys, because look, obviously Bruno and Eriksen are their first ball carriers. Okay, that's going to be their first part. But at the same token, they don't have center backs that are reliably able to receive off their goalkeeper, who is a shambles in his own right in the first phase. And when you start to look at pressing triggers and you start to look at some of the spaces that they leave, United leave an insane amount of space centrally in terms of their midfield spacing. And it's because directly they constantly have to have Eriksen and Bruno drop deep in the first phase, but then switch, and they both have to run 40 yards to switch their positioning, where out of possession, Casemiro becomes the deeper anchor, but in possession, he is the highest up. And then, sorry, Karen, the one last thing is it's not only the midfield spacing, but at the same token, it's the fullback options that aren't able to supply the press. And this is something that I've seen in the last game that I commented on, that, without Dalot in there, who again doesn't seem like an option right now because he's injured, they don't have fullbacks that support their press. No. So when you've got such a big space in the middle of the park, and then you've got fullbacks that are going to stay deep with a higher line, you end up getting this massive space and chasm in the middle of the park. And that's why they end up doing transitions. That's why they end up trying to get a Weghorst, who's going to come in and hopefully just knock off in an Olivier Giroud style into open space for Rashford to...
One out of 4 aerial duels versus Palace, which...
Hilarious.
Yeah.
But hilarious, by the way. He's doing a poor job at it. But just to wrap it up, essentially, is you've got a team. And by the way, Erik ten Hag is absolutely somebody that I rate in build-up. He is a coach that it's one of his specialties. So it's not something that I'm worried about United long-term. If I was a United fan, which I'm not, haha. But in the moment right now, they have 0 players that are able to receive from the first phase. And we are the team with the best press in the league. That isn't a good pill to combine with, especially when you're doing it away and you're playing at the Emirates. They have a horrible record at the Emirates, by the way. For as bad as our record is at Old Trafford, their record is equally as bad at the Emirates. So when I have a look about all of these things, United also, they don't start well. They're a team that doesn't traditionally start well at all. I think Marcus Rashford has had an excellent goal-scoring run, but in the last game, he was showing a lot of the reasons why he was poor in a poor reign of form earlier. And it was because he's just making wrong decisions. And so the biggest thing is we are the team that start the fastest in the league. They're a team that start historically slow. We are a team with the best press in the league. They are a team with one of the worst build-up, with a lot of pressing triggers in both Varane, David De Gea, and of course that little midget who likes to think that he's hard. But I think he's making a lot of rash challenges. I don't believe that he's done well to support the press in the middle of the park at all. The fullbacks stay deep and then he jumps up. So there is a mismatch there.
It's because he's a left back. If he was in left back's areas, he'd be able to press and hit his man higher up the field. He's not in centre back zones. He's in centre back zones right now, and he's not supporting the press because he's afraid of the space in behind. Let's be honest.
I don't even like hit him that hard for it, because I think ultimately your fullbacks are the biggest issues right now. And I agree here.
This 4-2-4 press is not going to work against us, especially with the receivers we have in the second phase out wide. You can't just leave those spaces open. You leave Odegaard in space in the second phase in wide right. he's going to kill you, especially in this form. It's just not going to work.
Here, I'll talk about this really quickly. Look, Aaron Wan-Bissaka has done well in the role he's asked to do, which is be an underlapper, don't go on the outside, and stay 1v1. He's done well in that role. But as soon as you ask him to become more expansive, and for all his 1v1 ability, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, for me, I find is a lot worse when he's not isolated and he's tasked
He has
to kind
to
of
think about other people.
Exactly. So the blindside run, which is something I think. So a lot of people are afraid of the Martinelli versus Aaron Wan-Bissaka matchup. I am interested to see how the Granit Xhaka matchup popping into the running into the box is going to kind of go out, because that's what really hit United hard last time. And I think that despite him being excellent 1v1, he still is somebody that struggles with his surroundings a little bit, especially those blindside running. So I don't know who's going to track in that United team.
Xhaka underlap is going to be on all game. All game. I can see it happening already. Saliba to Ødegaard wide. Ødegaard runs into space, into half space, either tries to find Saka on the outside who runs inside, or we find the half space across to a Xhaka underlap. I can see it all day to a cutback. I can see that happening all day. I think that exact pattern of play can happen. But the main thing I was talking about, I was trying to say to George is, the equaliser against Palace. The equaliser against Palace is De Gea kicking into space when he has Lissandro as an option short, and he kicks it into space and it comes back. They can see the free kick and at least it's a worldie. The whole point is you can't do that against us, because we're good at second balls. We have athletes in the middle of the pitch. We have athletes out wide. And if you try and isolate us in the air, we can win those second balls and we will hunt you in your own half. It's very, very simple. And with that, it means that you can actually progress the ball centrally as well as wide, because you're able to win the ball wherever they try to put it when De Gea launches it, because we have the advantage in terms of athletes, both centrally and out wide. If you look at Partey coming inside and hitting those lamppost kind of central anchor post runs, balls into either a Xhaka underlap or a Saka out wide, we have the athletes to go one-on-one, as well as the awareness to hit an Aaron Wan-Bissaka, where, as George mentioned, exactly where his weakness is, tracking blindside runners and getting into the box to hit a cutback. So we have the ability to really, really blitz them. And I think George mentioned it doing it earlier, and it's just been in my mind all day. I think we'll blitz them. I think it's a repeat of the Ozil Sanchez game. I think it's just going to be a real blitz for 20, 25 minutes. We're going to hurt them hard, and they're not going to know what to do, because let's be honest, McTominay and Fred are McTominay and Fred, and they don't have a Casemiro to destroy transitions or destroy settle play. They're going to really miss him, because he has been very good for them. And I think even as like an intangible lesson as well, they kind of rely on him as kind of like the big brother on the pitch. Like, he's that guy to calm everything down. He's that leader on the pitch that kind of, they feel more at calm and at ease with him on the pitch. And it radiates into their fan base as well. I feel like they are so, in lock with this Casemiro signing. Like, ever since he said that, I think it was like, "Don't worry, I've got this," or something, when we were courting him. They were courting him against Brentford. They were like, "Don't worry, I'll fix all of this."
Well, everyone panicked on and off the pitch.
But I think he brings that kind of, even though his aggression brings calmness in other people, because they feel like he's got that ability to do that dirty work that McTominay will struggle with.
It's simple. It's about claiming authority in your actions really quickly. And I want to give Chris a chance, as he's been trying to get in. But just really quickly, you can give authority in how you play via how a pass. You can do authority in terms of a tackle. There's that famous, clip that was doing the rounds with, oh God, who's the Australian? Was it Tim Cahill? In terms of that pundit with Roy Keane.
It was Tim Cahill.
Okay, so when you're going around and you're actually talking about how you involve yourself on a match through leadership stuff, I think that's just something that they've lacked as a team for 5+ years. So whenever they've got somebody that has that aggression in the tackle, they've always been a club that has promoted that. Look at how all their pundits and all their ex-players talk about passion and desire with an H. It's ridiculous, in terms of, but they lean into that.
It's their main thing for success, and it's always has been like that's always been.
It's been the fabric of Manchester United, and how much
everybody.
Yeah.
And they beat people in transition. That's what made them.
And to be fair, like that is something that I've talked about on this channel quite a bit. Whenever you recruit outside of your fabric and your
Yes, yeah.
identity, you fail. Whenever you recruit within your fabric and identity, you will do well. And is it something that I think would serve them well going forward? No. But I think it will serve United well, because that is what makes them United ultimately. So,
So
sorry, but anyways, go ahead,
yeah,
Chris.
what I
was
wanted to ask
interrupting.
you guys before you guys started going on them tangents, I was going to ask, like, what do you think gave them success in this run? What do you think are their downfalls in this one? Like, just short, especially particularly that City game, because obviously they came back from 1-0 down for the first time. Well, for the first time since they beat them 3-2. But what do you think gave them that success, particularly in that game?
I mean,
To
for
get them in
me,
this race?
I just feel like they were able to ride out periods. I feel like Ten Hag's off the ball structure in terms of in the block. I feel like in transition they're very easily got out wide, and that's why they have conceded a lot of chances. But if you look at their block structure and how they set up out of possession, it's not bad. It's not great either, but it's not bad. And that's what that they have the players to be able to sort of ride it out when times get tough, because they're still playing transition football. They're still relying on Rashford as an outlet. They're still relying on getting that combination play through the lines. Of it kind of looks like I wanted to ask you guys, because the thing is, for me, it kind of looks semi-automated, semi-not, where they have set patterns of play that kind of progress the ball out wide, where they go full back, centre mid, winger, and then through the lines. And so either Anthony will slow it down or Rashford will speed it up through the lines. But they have that kind of that pattern where they go fullback, centre mid, staggered, and then out wide for the outlet to go and run inside. I think they have been coached well in both situations, but I feel like they're also relying on that ability that they have developed as a culture. It is a culture now at Man United of counter-attacking football. I think it's something they've played well, and that's what they've been relying on. And they have the players to do it as well. So yeah, I think that's the main thing for me. And in terms of downfall, it's not really. We've talked about already. Wide progression hurts them. I think that if you can dominate them off on the ball and get them out of possession, you can create chances off them. And it is very easy to get ahead against this team. I just feel like they are very resilient in terms of being able to press that counter-attacking button and get into situations where they can get to a Rashford or a Bruno or someone like this to find that moment of magic.
Look, I think ultimately when you have a team that is that has excellent forwards, which they do with really good ball striking, you're able to hide a lot of flaws. And in terms of looking at this run, what that does is when you have forwards with excellent ball striking, they win you games. Do they win you titles? Not on their own. And so I think that's like the step that they do have to adjust a little bit more. One thing I will say is I do think that Erik ten Hag has done a great job in terms of the spacing of their defensive line, and they do have a lot tighter distances when they do go into a low block. That is something that they do very well. I think a lot of my questions happen in possession for them, and they're still figuring out kind of a positional system in terms of the midfield. We talked about how much space there's going to be in the middle of the park. Their fullbacks don't support their press. The Casemiro inverted 10 option in terms of that switch in possession that they've got to do. In terms of on the ball, David De Gea is a problem. That guy can't distribute early. And then when you have a look up top, really, they have a forward line that they're struggling to integrate. Anthony, I don't think, has done anything of note for £100 million, one of the biggest wastes of money I've ever seen in my life. It's definitely somebody that I think can come good. He's a creative winger profile down the line, but this is a guy that needs 3 years of gym work to even get ready for the league, let alone adapt. And so I think that's one of the biggest in a transfer history, really, that I've ever seen. So in terms of problems there, that's the major problems that I see with United. In terms of what they've done well, it's transitions, and they've done a lot better in terms of low blocks. They're not as gung-ho, I will say. They're a lot more defensive than people will have you think, by the way. Whatever they do in possession is very quick. And when they don't have possession, they get into a block but they don't have players that are very good in terms of being diligent with following their markers. So they've got into a block well, but they can't track runners well. So that's really the biggest thing.
one
And
more
I
thing.
will say Eric Ten Hag has
At
done
the
a
end.
really good job from a culture perspective. He's definitely taken some big decisions. You have to give him credit in that sense. But I will say his talent ID has been spooky. I don't think that they've covered up, exactly this. I mean, that's been my main critique.
It's one
They've done
factor.
well.
I think it's one factor.
They've had the deepest line, one of the deepest lines in the league.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's not to say that it's bad, because you look at Antonio Conte, who also has a very deep line but can't defend well. So it's definitely something to say. Look, he is a coach that is doing that tactic well. It's not something that he wants to do long term, but absolutely thriving on the efficiency of your forward line when you can go into a low block. That is their play. Now, does that work with Arsenal when you've got another team that is able to control transitions in the way that we do? Hell no. We're probably one of the best teams in the league at controlling transitions. So I think it could be a very, very long day. And I just don't think they do well under a press. If you press Bruno and Eriksen in the middle of the park and they don't have time to look up and turn and hit their forwards into space, because look, we know they're going to set their gazelles off, and that's literally the only thing that they can do in order to combat what we have to offer. So I actually think it's going to be a very dominant display. I think we're going to be camped in their half. I think it's going to be an early press, and I think it's going to be an early goal blitz. Kind of, I forget the year, but it's going to be the Alexis Sanchez, the 2015 Emirates performance with Sanchez, Walcott, and Ozil. Then when we tore them apart for the first 25, 30 minutes, and we killed the game. I really see that being the case here.
Do you think it will be as extreme? Because that game was 2-0 in 9 minutes, 3-0 in 16.
I don't know if it'll happen off the bat, but I do think we get multiple goals in quick succession, like in 10 minutes. So that for me is going to be something that I really see happening. I mean, I just don't see with the precedence. And sorry, Chris, just really quickly, I actually think, weirdly enough, Eddie Nketiah is going to be unbelievable for this game. I don't
think that's weird. I was just about to get into that. But
well, I was going to say, even compared to like a Gabriel Jesus, I kind of prefer an Eddie Nketiah for this game. Somebody that is just extremely physical, that is going to be running the channels and also going to be diligent in the press like that. And by the way, he just had his best performance. I talked about it on Twitter all season in the North London Derby. That is somebody that had a very complete performance that was missing everything but the goal. And if you're an XG person, he is cashing that in against United. You best believe it.
I think he did very well versus Tottenham. They have very similar centre-backs in the sense that they get attracted to the ball a lot. And he loves to receive deep, turn and face. And when he does receive and pin, Martinez makes a lot of fouls. He did the same thing versus Palace on the halfway line. He was fouling Mateta. But I think, like, looking into the stats, United have conceded 60% of their goals in the first half, 23% in the first 15 minutes. They start very poorly. We start very well.
Insanely well. Yeah.
We've scored 17% of our goals in the first 15 and 28% in the first 15 in the second half. And I think what United have done well in this run is to keep the game close till when they can bring on Garnacho, because I think he's been a very big catalyst for a lot of their goals. He created the goal himself versus City to put in the tap in for Rashford, but he's created a lot of Rashford's goals.
He's their best left winger, but Rashford's their most potent goal threat. Yeah,
he scored a goal in the 90th minute versus Fulham. So he's done very, very well to come on and change games, and obviously has seen him get a new contract and a bigger importance in the team. But I think that's mainly what, for me, has allowed them to do very well, because they've scored like 30% of their goals in the last 14 minutes of games. And if knowing a team that should be in a title race, you shouldn't leave games. Such a dominant team wouldn't leave games to the last 15 minutes consistently. I think with us, we concede just before the last 15 a lot. And then
literally around 65 to 70 minutes. That's the time.
The longest we've been down in any game was that United game. So I think, against us, who start very well, probably one of the best starters in the league.
Can we just
team
talk
who
about
starts very poorly in United just haven't faced a team like Bournemouth, teams like Fulham. They like to grow into the game. They get rough with you. They like to pin their striker, which is perfect for a team like United, which also grow into the game and don't start well, because when a team doesn't dictate any area of the game, they rarely start well. Like, for
No.
example, and I keep referring to Newcastle because they were on the same points. Newcastle do very well to dictate a game on and off the ball, and I've gotten much better with a guy like Bruno and Willock in the midfield. Have done much better to keep the ball, and I was much more scared of a team like Newcastle. Obviously, that was a 0-0 game. We probably should have got a pen to win the game, but when games are that close, you need the pens. I don't think it's not tomorrow, is it? It's Sunday, yeah. I don't think tomorrow will be that close. What do you guys think of the scoreline? What do you think the scoreline will be? What's your predictions for the game?
Really quickly, like I've said, I've told everybody how poorly I think United are, and I think I see us dominating. I see us absolutely blitzing them in the press, and I see early blitz of goals. I see a 3-0, and I've been saying it kind of all week. I think that, look, Luke Shaw has actually been in excellent form. Luke Shaw is probably the one United player that can hold their head up. That, for me, has been phenomenal for the course of the season. But unfortunately, Bakayo's going to roast you, and he's going to do it really bad because I have a feeling.
First time either.
Yeah, not for the first time at all. And I think it really comes down more to the fact that they have forwards that don't track back. Rashford's not going to track back. So he's going to leave him on his own, and you just can't do that. Bakayo's too good. You have to have two people on them, and they won't do it. Rare, but I think Odegaard has been phenomenal since the new year. I think he's really done well.
More
than
than that,
shock.
since the World Cup has stopped. Because the World Cup's come back, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, that's probably fair as well. I just haven't caught up on the games, before that. But I can only. But he's been excellent since that point, and I think in his new role, he is really excelling and putting himself in areas that are excellent. Ben White providing the overlap is pushing Bukayo inside. That little bit of play where Ben receives on the touch line and he passes it into play, into touch. Me and Chris and Curran, we were talking off air a couple days ago about it, really. And, I just think that little bit of play where he plays him inside is so key. I mean, we've responded to people kicking the crap out of Bukayo Saka on the touchline by saying, look, son, go inside and run onto the ball. And when he's running onto the ball, he's not as prone to those kicks. And we're protecting players. It's so smart. Like, that's a little trick in possession that we weren't doing before. And we're responding to teams doing the absolute worst.
And not only the foul though, it just he faces the rest of the pitch much faster. He takes less touches.
He's inside.
He can progress faster.
100%. And he ends up being in areas of the pitch. I've always said this. Anybody that has watched the BoP channel knows, get your forwards as close to goal as much and as quickly as possible. And that's when you're going to get success. So yeah, just to wrap up, I think Bukayo is going to do excellently to get a goal. I really do think Eddie Nketiah is going to score a goal off a pressure trigger, either from a Varane or a David De Gea mistake in the first phase. And actually, I do think Granit Xhaka is going to be my third
goal versus the Man United.
Absolutely. There's a bit of that, but also because I see Aaron Wan-Bissaka starting, I don't think he's going to track the second ball runners. We were talking about it earlier in stream, so just go back if you guys missed it. But 100%, Aaron Wan-Bissaka struggles with a little bit of awareness in those second ball runners. So I think Granit Xhaka arriving to the box is going to be a goal at some point, and it's just going to cap off a really excellent display. And yeah, I do think it'll be a clean sheet. So I'm going 3-0.
For me, I'm also going to go 3-0. But
guys, you copied me. No, I'm telling you right now.
You know what? I will do this. I don't care. I will pull up the group chat. I do not.
He did respond first.
I responded first.
He responded first.
I will put it on Twitter. I do not care. I responded first. I said 3-0. I'm not going to have this.
No, I know. No, I'm just bugging. But I have been saying it for weeks. I do think it'll be a 3-0.
Not this time. Okay, I will not have it. But
why do you think it will be 3-0?
I think it will be 3-0 because the one thing I've been trying to say is the main issue where people have tried to exploit us defensively is on our left side, on that right side, and they don't have the outlet there or the overlap there to really hurt us on that right hand side. I mean, you look at Anthony, and he has no ability to go on the outside with his weak foot. He doesn't go and hit that channel well. He doesn't go out wide and come inside. It's always the same move. And Wan-Bissaka, as George was mentioning, is an underlap, not an overlap. So we're having a whole channel where you could attack Zinchenko. Look, you can't look at it and say, look, there's going to be a lot of threat because you have Rashford, who obviously there's a whole battle with White, but there's Saliba there as well. And I remember at the first game of the season with Zaha, and when he struggled Saliba helped, and that help defense or when on a winger is going to be crucial. And I think that because that's their main attacking outlet. So the doubling up on Rashford in transition, I think will be essential. I think will be be something that we do very well. And yeah, we have the goals in us. I don't think there's look we were 2 goals, but we're 2 less on goal difference than Man City with a game less played.
The 2 goals only came because of Tottenham.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna say this. It's not like we can't score goals. I hope Neville is commentating. I really do, because the thing is, I'm going to be watching on a different stream, and at the end of the game, I will turn over to Sky Sports and watch him cry because it will be fun. Look, it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a game that I think a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, and I think this is a game where you really see the Emirates show why they've been that sort of driving force in terms of getting our players across the line. I was there at Leicester when Saliba conceded the own goal, and we just cheered him and got this team over the line, and we responded immediately. We have a team, and we have a stadium, and we have a club that's all aligned in the same direction. So I'm very happy. I've also seen the Simon Collins report, so I know people have been messaging about saying how we've just said Camavinga is not going to come and are reportedly interested, so that's fun. So there's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of things to be excited about around the club, and we will get into them. I think we're going to do a Trossard and the transfers show, I think, next week, as well as the review, and we've got a lot of stuff planned, so do stick with us. I know we've been away for a while, and we want to get back to doing things for you guys. So look forward to speaking to you again soon, and hopefully we can get that 3-0 done.
Both of you are going 4-0, 3-0. So I was gonna go 4-1. But, I want the clean sheets. I want to say 4-0. I think we score 4 goals. I think United.
I won't be surprised.
Me personally, I think they start just too slow. They start way too slow, and when we
Trossard debut goal, Chris.
Yes, off the bench. I think it's very good to have an attacker who you literally lose nothing when you bring him on. Very good back to goal, very good finishing. As we said, well, we didn't say here, but top 10 presser in the league. Probably top
5. No, I'm not going to have that. I know it's been debatable.
Probably
but
top 5.
There's only
top
been
5,
3.
but I'll just say top 10 for the no debate in it. So top 10 presser.
But just like the stat is, there's only been 3 players that have regained possession more in the final third than Trossard.
Yeah. So yeah, I think when he comes off the bench, he'll be a very good addition, clinical finisher. But I do think there's a possibility we can see, just because I don't like any 1v1 matchup apart from Anthony. I'm comfortable with Zinchenko, but there will be a moment.
There's no outside threat though. That's the thing.
There will be a moment in the game where they switch Rashford, just to pin him for Zinchenko, like for 15-minute period. And if he has success, he'll stay there a bit longer. And then Garnacho off the bench, we'll have to watch out for, but not much else I'm really scared of. But yeah, I think we all predicted a 3-goal gap at least.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's 9-0, and we just stop the talk and we confirm ourselves as the leading title challenger. But yeah,
in the words of Nike, you just got to do it at this point, right? And I think what's crazy is, look, even if City win and you've got like a 5-point gap again, what I think this does in terms of kind of beating United is huge in terms of guaranteeing top 4. Not that was ever a question for people, but when you actually deep it, have a look right now. We are I think it's 11 points, we are 8 points.
8 points ahead of United with a game in hand.
100%, which would then become 11 points with a game in hand on your closest challengers. That's crazy. That is an insane gap. So it's phenomenal to be in that kind of position. And guys, the last thing I will say, because we will talk transfers a little bit later, and sorry, we've been a little bit, it's been a longer preview, but having your position guaranteed as Champions League now does insane for the speed of deals that you can do and for the players that you want to attract. Because when you want those marquee players and they know that you're in the Champions League and they can see the kind of project, Mikel Arteta's Arsenal is the best project in the world. You're seeing players like Rafael Leao talk about it, Declan Rice talk about it. It is time to grow some balls for everybody in the fan base and start it's not dreaming, it's expecting. This is what it is. So when you talk about expectations, when you talk about all these things, ironically, it's the people that believe that we had one of the better projects in the world that were saying all this. But you have to start targeting these players because you have become the destination in world football. We are the youngest team in the Premier League, by the way. If we were to do the unthinkable and win the title, we would break precedent as the youngest team to ever do it. And not only just do it, but do it by 2 years of an average age in the squad. That is insane. And then you've got a manager who's the youngest in the league as well. It literally is the start. It can only get better. If you're operating at a baseline of winning a title, it's insane for what we can do. So, yeah.
Answer this, you guys, before we go. What do you think?
Yes, I can't be on that fence until I'm in March. Personally, I've always said it.
So you're still on the fence.
Well, mainly because I don't know what injuries happen, and I also don't know what the squad will look like. Do we get Ivan Fresneda in 100%? I don't know. I think by March, you'll have a confirmation of the Jesus injury. You'll have confirmation of and know exactly what your squad is. Once I know that, I can have a better opinion. But look, what I will say is we've played the best football in the league, the most consistently, and for the longest. And so if you're looking at in terms of who has played title challenging football, it's been us, undoubtedly.
Well, me personally, anyone who's been watching the channel knows I don't sit on the fence unless it comes to predictions for games. So for me,
which you're firmly on the fence with quite a bit.
Yeah, we are. But yeah, we're going to win the league anyways. We're going to win it easily.
Just simply, yes.
I think we're going to win it early as well. Hopefully, City continue to start slow the way they did versus Tottenham. Because I think other teams will do a much better job of shutting them out. Like if Wolves go 2 down, I was much more confident Wolves keep them out than that Tottenham were 2-2 in 8 minutes. So hopefully other teams do a better job. But yeah.
Look, fundamentally, when you look at it, you can't, and I don't think it's even sitting on the fence at this point because a title charge really.
It's half the season left.
It's half the season. Like I think everyone's getting excited, and of course, when there was an opportunity for Spurs to go 2-0 up, people were doing the predictions about how many points ahead we would be, and it's just. I think fundamentally, when you get to March, even with an 8-point gap, we've seen that overturned with top 4. We've seen Arsenal lose top 4, and we've also seen Arsenal win top 4 with over 8 points of difference in March.
We've seen Liverpool last season, like obviously they didn't win the league, but they were 11 points behind City at one point,
and they caught up
1 point behind. They were winning the league with like 20 minutes to go.
So there's not a magic number, but one thing I will say is by March, it becomes very difficult to do the 11-game stretch. If you house an 11-point difference and you're assuming equal games played, it becomes very, very difficult for you to win the league.
Well, technically, there is a magic number. The number is 14 points.
Well,
no team has ever overturned the 14-point gap.
But also, when's the last time that we've had a title that was separated by 14 points over 10 years, right? Like it's been very, very insane. So to do that, sure. But again, I will put my flag in March if I can see what we do, because I think we have an excellent opportunity from basically the Man City game till about the beginning of April to really accumulate maximum points again. We have a very big stretch where we have easier opponents, I'll say. And then there's a difficult stretch to end the season. So definitely something that we'll have to rain check on.
Well, yeah, that was definitely the best. This is the best team we faced so far. Not best, but like on form, the atmosphere around their club. Like going into this game is probably the most confident team we're going to face. I think we're going to put them aside easily. George and Karen think that too. A lot of United fans think they're going to pass us out. They think they're going to take away our.
No, a lot of the confidence is gone with the Casemiro, yellow. I know a lot of fans that were like, "Oh no, we don't have Casemiro now. It's gone. We're not winning."
Well, I know a lot of like fans personally who still think they're going to beat us. They have money on it to beat us as well. I want to win money. Yeah, so like I think we're going to win. This is our longest preview of the season.
We haven't been here a while.
Had to be. We haven't seen each other in a long time. It is our first title game because United and City are seen as the other title challenges. So yeah, hopefully we win. We'll be back soon to speak about Trossard, a great signing, Kirill, hopefully Fresneda as well. Hopefully United win. And then hopefully United win. And then we'll be back after that to speak about the Man City game, a preview for the FA Cup. But yeah, Thank you for watching, guys. We'll be back
Can
soon.
I do my thing? I got to do my
Yeah,
thing.
In fact, yeah, do it. You do it. Go on.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications to know when, in fact, we do upload. And of course, you can find all the boys' socials down below. I'm at GeorgeV_AFC. That's at current BoP. And of course, at CKFTBL. That's at CK Football. And we are, of course, Ball Over Passion here on YouTube, or at BoP Footy on the Twitter. But guys, thank you so much. And again, just really lastly, kind of really quickly, I just want to thank everybody who reached out and gave me a personal message. It was like really humbling. Thank you so much. All better now, and I'm really happy to kind of get going. We're going to be putting consistent content out for you guys. And look, we missed you all very much as well, and we really did appreciate everybody checking in, and you know, and even the interactions now. Like, we really do appreciate. We do this for you guys, and you guys make it worth it. So thank you so much for all of your support. And yeah, let's make sure that we get that interaction up, because we're going to be coming back quick and fast. Because guys, we've got games almost every 3 days coming up in the next couple of weeks, so we've got content for you if you guys want to enjoy it. So thank you so much, and we'll sign off, and we'll catch you guys next week for a review and also some transfer news. So peace for now. Bye, boys.
Peace.